Chat Night Africa Live, about to begin.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming. Coming to get down. I'm coming. I'm coming.
Chat Night Africa Live, Afrocentric solutions to Africa's challenges.
We're gonna dance. We're gonna get down.
Showcasing Africa's touristic luxuriance.
We're gonna party. Party hardy. We're gonna boogie.
The other story of Africa.
And when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here.
Chat Night Africa Live, about to begin.
I'm ready. I'm coming. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming. Coming to get down. We're gonna get down. We're gonna get down. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance.
Chat Night Africa Live, about to begin.
Coming to get down. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. I'm ready. I'm coming. I'm dancing. I'm dancing. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance.
And now, Chat Night Africa Live with Divine Chamuko.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Chat Night Africa. We are about to discuss experiences you have every day or experiences you've watched other people go through, conflicts between husbands and wife. Listen, how does it happen that the ghost of conflict just doesn't leave some homes? Many times I've met couples who in their communication behave more like two lawyers in a courtroom. One, a prosecutor, and the other, a defense counsel. While I do not promise that the conflict in your home will just dissipate after 90 minutes of broadcast, one thing I promise is that this broadcast will generate fireworks. And here is why. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mrs. Ruth Yeboah.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I usually describe Ruth Yeboah as the dynamite from the Gold Coast from the West African country, Ghana. Who is Ruth Yeboah? Our audience would like to know who you are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruth Yeboah, and I am half Ivorian, half Ghanaian. I am a relationship coach, and I'm excited to be here tonight to talk about conflict and break down some of the boundaries to conflict to you guys and debunk some of the difficulties that people may experience in their homes.
Thank you, Ruth. Conflict usually happens especially when two people or more than one person is in the same space. Mm-hmm. It is even more so between husbands and wives. Mm-hmm. Now, while some people easily handle their conflicts, some people let theirs smother. They let theirs just go on and on and on. And so the host of the house becomes or turns like a shark tank. What is the problem, Ruth? Is it the kind of conflicts that they have to grapple with, or it is the attitudes of those grappling with the conflicts?
Okay, so thanks for that question. Conflict is a natural part of life because we're all different, okay? The best way to define conflict is that it's a clash of interest. Because we're all different, we're all raised differently, there's always going to be a clash of interest somewhere, somehow, because you may like something that I don't like. You might be more comfortable with certain things that I'm not comfortable with. So because we have different backgrounds, conflict is bound to happen. In fact, research shows that about 70% of conflicts are not going to be resolved. About 70% of any conflict that happens at any given point are not going to be resolved. The key is being able to manage conflict. And I'm giving that introduction because it's important to understand, even before we start talking about what causes conflict, how do you fix conflict, what do you do to resolve those issues. So I want people to understand that conflict is a normal part of life. However, what you're supposed to do is learn to manage conflict. The whole concept of conflict resolution is rather, I won't say it's a myth, but it's trying to come to a point where we're all workable, a certain level where we're all comfortable and we're able to live with one another. Mr. Divine, what you described is being in a home, where people's personal spaces may be invaded. And so naturally people may feel bad or down or just feel like, just get away from me, but that's because they haven't learned to deal and address with the issues that they're facing. So I'll stop here for now.
What have you identified to be the major areas of conflicts between couples, Ruth?
Some of the major areas of conflict, you see, I like to teach, okay? So if you're here tonight, I want you to bear mind or pay attention to some of the lessons and the information that I'll be given, okay? It'll be very helpful to better understand the whole concept of conflict. Some of the issues that happen in certain homes, as I said, conflict is inevitable. It's part of life. You just got to be able to resolve it. Some of the underlying issues could be money. It could be in-laws. It could be children. Some people have different parenting styles, okay? Maybe I let the kids do whatever they want. Maybe the other parent doesn't allow the kids to do whatever they want. It could be blended families, all right? You can have small little annoying habits, okay? Maybe I don't like the toothpaste to be squeezed in the middle. Maybe the other person likes to squeeze their toothpaste in the middle. Lack of intimacy, sex, okay? Friends, expectations that are not met. There's infidelity. I mean, I can go on and on, but these are all sources of conflict, but they fester because those issues are not normally addressed as they ought to be.
This is Chat Night Africa. The issues are not addressed as they normally should be. Mm-hmm. What comes in between? What is it that stops people from addressing conflicts?
So some of the issues that stop people, it's because before you even begin, right, people are already, they push aside, right, something that bothers them. So maybe there's an issue, there's a problem. And instead of talking about the problem, I'm going to pretend that the problem isn't there. Anytime you push aside something that's important to you and you minimize it and you try to walk on eggshells and things like that, guess what? Instead of addressing the issue, you become resentful because your needs are not met. There are certain needs. Whenever there's a conflict, there is a need that's not being met. The key is figuring out what is that need and what are the behaviors that ensue. So we addressed the issues, the problems, what we see with our eyes. But what is the underlying condition? What is the thing that we don't see, but is really hurting the person? And that's really what we should talk about. If the person goes on and on and on and does not, address those issues, guess what happens? There is resentment. And resentment suddenly, it's a subtle or mild form of anger. So people may seem more angry, more annoyed for whatever reason. But what happens is it builds up slowly, and slowly until the person has had enough. and the person says, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. And so you see the energy in the home continues to be negative and increasingly gets worse with time, only because energy can be felt, and your energy is shown in your behavior, it's displayed in your behavior. All right, so you have to deal with things as they happen. You can't push it for later, you can't postpone it, you can't wait till next year when the person does it again. You can't do that. Otherwise, you become vicious, you become malicious, and it becomes an issue. So this is why conflict festers or becomes worse, because people are resentful.
People are resentful. As I said in my introductory remarks, I have met couples who behave more like two lawyers in a courtroom, one the prosecutor and the other one a defense counsel. Ruth, the question, oh yeah, I mean, they hate each other, they resent each other so intense.
Yeah.
You're wondering how they are even couples in the first place. Here's the question I want to ask you. I listened to this very wise man, a statesman in Cameroon. He said the big problems that people have to grapple with later downstream begin like the small pothole in roads. If you ignore them, you later on have to deal with lakes. Again, if you ignore those little potholes in life's relationships, you later have to deal with lakes. Ruth, what are the things that magnify these potholes that turn into lakes in love relationships?
So what happens at any given point in a marriage, as a couple, is that there is a breakdown in communication. Okay, there is a huge breakdown in communication. And the biggest problem in communication is not listening to understand. Okay, we don't normally listen to understand the other individual. So if you're the person giving out the message, the last time I was here, I spoke about communication, marital communication. When you're speaking and giving out a message, you are the sender of the message. There is a receiver at the other hand. When there's too much noise, the person can't hear you. So when you're speaking to somebody, your intent, your goal, your focus should be, can this person understand me? Okay, so speak to be understood. That's your primary goal as a person who is relaying a message. If the person doesn't understand you, they cannot give you what you need. So if I say, give me water, and you heard me say, give me soda, I didn't say, give me soda. I said, give me water. The reason you didn't hear water and you heard soda, either you felt like I needed to drink soda, you wanted to give me soda, you wanted soda. I mean, there's a slew of reasons why an individual may not hear exactly what is being said. So it's important to reflect when someone is speaking to you in order to make sure that you understand that person. Okay, so I said communication breaks down. When communication breaks down, conflict is magnified. To answer your question, people's feelings get hurt, emotions remain high, okay? And the solution seems to be out of reach. It seems like it's impossible to have a solution. And then if you're coupled with children in the home, you add children on top of that, everything is 100 times more. So guess what? You're not going to be able to resolve the issues the way they're meant to be resolved, because everything is amplified. All right. So couples may say, I need this to be my way. Okay. So I'm explaining why conflict it gets to be worse. They can say, I want this to go my way. Or the other person may say, no, I want it to go all your way. Right. Here's when people say your way. They say, all right, whatever you want. If you've ever been in an argument with somebody and the person says, okay, whatever you want, the person is relinquishing their ability to choose. They're relinquishing their power, their agency. They're saying, okay, you have your way. It's fine. And then the other The other side of it could be, all right, well, we can compromise. That's the third way. We can come together. Let's talk about this and compromise and come halfway, 50-50. Or you get to a person who says, anything goes. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. When you have somebody in a conflict or in a marriage who says, do whatever you want, it's a dead end. It's a dead end. At that point, the person is exhausted. The person is hopeless. And at this stage, you need expert advice ASAP.
You need expert advice ASAP. We're speaking a lot to Africans in your practice. I mean, you coach so many people, you advise so many people. Mm-hmm. Are you with the impression that Africans really come for advice? They want advice. If not, what's stopping them from?
Good question. So, okay, there's a saying that advice is what you ask when you know what to do, but you don't want to do it. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Advice is what you ask when you know what to do and you don't want to do it. So you ask other people, what do you think? Because when you ask other people, you relinquish your power. You want to be able to blame other people for those decisions. So speaking to my African folks, I don't think it's any different from Africans or any other people. I mean, I coach Americans, I coach Caribbeans. I don't think there's a huge difference per se. I think it's more so from a cultural standpoint, there is a way we've allowed our culture to play this taboo role in our lives, right? So in our culture, they may say, well, talk to the family first, bring in uncle, bring in the pastor, bring in this person first. And then maybe, counseling and therapy and those things are taboo because we feel, what's the point? This person doesn't know. They're going to tell me something from the books. Some are operating just from the books, but there are those who have lived life and they've seen and experienced what it looks like, what could be happening. And sometimes you need the scientific to back up the experience, to back up what we know. And so to your point, I believe that Africans, just like anybody else, may shy away from professional help. As I mentioned previously, I am a coach. I do relationship coaching, something I love with all my heart. I'm so passionate about this, okay? And so my goal is to see couples restored, see marriages, restored, see women come to a point where they feel like, wow, I am myself. This is who I'm created to be. But if you're not at that point, it's hard to add somebody as a whole. And so, no, people come for advice, but until you're ready for change, it doesn't matter what advice you receive. It's just noise.
This is Chat Night Africa. And I told you this woman from Ghana is a dynamite. We're blessed to have you. I mean, people are sending me text, Divine, thank you for bringing back Ruth Yeboah. And Mrs. Yeboah, please, if you have people at home using your Wi-Fi, I'd like that they shut that down so that there's connectivity. I hope they're listening, please. If you are in Mrs. Yeboah's home watching this broadcast, please shut your Wi-Fi. We need to get this information. Shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. We need her on this show and what she communicates illicitly carried across. When people are mad at each other, and these things do happen, I mean, you, the expert, I'm sure that there are times that you get mad with your husband. How do you expect, Ruth Yeboah, how do you expect people who are mad at each other to listen, to understand, when the tendency first is to hit back, get back to the other person, give that other person a piece of your mind? Aren't you trying to squeeze water from a rock?
Well, I'm going to take you to the very basic, okay? Why did you get married? That's the question, okay? So if you are in a relationship with somebody, and I know the focus, as you told me, was like marriage. If you're in a relationship, we're in a team. There is no I in team, as it's been said many times, right? But why did I get married? Why am I with this person? Is it more important that I win this argument Some people want to win the argument. I mentioned up top that when you let things fester, you become vicious and you become very malicious. Being malicious is having the intent to hurt, to offend, it's not correct. You don't come clean, all right, when you're malicious. And so the whole point is, why am I with this person? If I'm with this person for the long haul, it doesn't matter that I'm right. Like, I can sit here and tell you I am about 90% right every time. I can tell you that, okay? But I've been through it. I've seen that a lot of times when you're on this side of the fence, you see yourself as right. You see yourself as right. Listen, I do coaching a lot with the couples. And let me tell you, one of the rules in my coaching room is that when you come to coaching, you cannot come here and focus on your spouse. People like to make everything about their spouse. My spouse this, my spouse that. Is it really about your spouse? Is it always about your spouse? If your spouse wasn't there, how would your life be? That's the question. And so for people that are already on each other's throat, there are roadblocks that gets those people to be there. There is too much criticisms. When you criticize somebody, you can appreciate. All right. When you criticize, you're saying you're attacking their personality. You're calling them names. There are spouses that call each other names. All right. Then there's contempt. I'm going to say something that's going to really hurt you. I'm going to look at your weakest moment and I'm going to use that against you. That's contempt. And then there is something like defensiveness. Have you ever met somebody who is so defensive? Listen, they're the forever victim. That's what we call them. These people are always victims. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Always it's somebody's fault. It's never them. When you play the forever victim, there is no room for change and you won't change. For a marriage to improve, for conflict to mitigate, because we already talked about this, conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. How do you resolve or mitigate conflict? That means decrease conflict. And so in decreasing conflict, this is what you can do, is stop the defensiveness. You got to listen. You got to listen. You can't look and say, oh, this person. No, what did you hear? What happened? And then the last thing I will say is stonewalling. When somebody is stonewalling, this is somebody who withdraws from what is actually going on. They don't want to hear it. They're not here for it. It's like they just put their distance. Everybody else knows the issue, but the person in the problem, nobody, they don't know. But everybody else knows the issue. So this is some of the ways that it's impossible for those people to resolve those conflicts.
You do not advise that somebody gets into conflict resolution and being critical. Isn't that the very reason why people are trying to sort out the differences? Because one has got to say, oh, look, you didn't do this right. That's being critical. So how do you avoid being critical in problem solving?
This is where I differ from other coaches or maybe therapists or counselors. This is where I differ, okay? Because like I said, it's like a judge saying in my courtroom. So in my room, you know, when you show up here, you're showing up for change and the focus is immediately placed on you. It takes two to tango. That statement, it has never been true when it comes to marital conflict. It takes two to tango. And I don't want to get into the spiritual aspect of it, but I'm going to tell you that when you begin to change on your own, when you make change a self-development approach, when you make your change about yourself, when you make life about yourself, you begin to see change, and those around you have no choice but to follow suit, okay? And scripturally it says, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. When the light shines, it doesn't matter how dark the place is. Automatically, there's going to be some kind of light that emanates immediately. So there has to be, listen, darkness has to give room to light. That's it. Darkness must give room to light. So if you have a spouse who's always pulling your hair and always just wants to fight and you know, the greatest thing you can have in marriage is peace. People think it's money. People think it's this, and then and love. And listen, it's peace. When you have peace in your home, you thrive in everything you do.
This is Chat Night Africa. I have a caller on the line. Hello, this is Chat Night. Welcome on board Chat Night Africa, Mrs. Lillian Fomunung. Mrs. Lillian Fomunung has been married for 30 years. She just recently celebrated her 30th anniversary. Lillian, why do a lot of couples struggle with resolving conflicts? You are married to Professor Wap Fomunung. What are some of the practical ways that you have applied or deployed to resolve conflicts, which are bound to be anyway? I want to ask Mrs. Ruth Yeboah, are you getting the?
We can't hear her.
Lillian?
No, we can't hear her.
You can't hear her. Okay, Lillian. Here's what I'm going to do. I will cut you off and call you right back. Okay, when we start up this, I'll call you right back. All right. Thank you. Yes. Yes, Ruth. Go ahead.
I don't know if there was a question. I didn't hear what she said.
That's okay. You didn't get her. I will arrange for her to be able to come through to the show. Yes.
Okay. So just to continue from what I was saying, if you take a collaborative approach, right? A collaborative approach to marriage, that means we're together, right? Because can two walk together? We can't do anything together unless there's that agreement. And so, spouses have to have mutual goals. You have to start working together. When you start working together, it's really hard to work against your team opponent. It's very hard to work against somebody in your team. If you're playing football, you need the other team member to play along, right? To play as a team. And so when you begin to chase common goals and have futuristic endeavors together, it's so much easier to resolve conflict. Because if we fight, we can't talk about what we're talking about. If we fight, we can't get to where we need to get to. So that's one of the things that I want to point out is having a collaborative approach. This is an alliance. We are allies. Okay, we're together in this. It's a team. And so we don't want to let go of one person, one team member.
The mystery in this, Ruth Yeboah, is people get into discussions and instead of listening for what the other person wants to say, they are more being expressive of their emotions in the heat of the problem. What do you advise people do to be able to sit on their emotions and listen to understand and not listen to fight?
I think I will kind of repeat again on what I said the last time I was here, is that you need to have some active listening skills. All right. For you to not here to fight, you have to be there for a reason. And that reason needs to be to get to a resolution, whatever that may look like, that benefits you and the other person as well. All right. And you need, listening skills. You need active listening skills. And listening is a skill because most people talk before they even hear the question. Most people answer right away. This is why listening is something you need to practice. There are those who are like, what am I going to read something in a book for what? But anything that has skills on top of it means that you have to learn. You have to spend the time to learn how, because there are those who have learned how to do it. There are those. And so what I do in my practice is to make sure that when you come in my room, as I said, we sit down and we talk about skill strategies. I provide you with strategies that can help you to start from where you're at and get you to where you want to be. So all hope is never lost. You need to get away from blaming the other individual. There's a lot of blaming that goes on in conflict. The blame needs to stop. The judgment needs to stop. Again, when you make it about yourself, you can't blame the other person so much.
This is Chat Night Africa, and with me on the platform is Mrs. Ruth Yeboah. I can imagine when you want to talk in those heated moments, what drives you on is to win. To win. You want to prove the other person wrong and that you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really an obstacle? Shouldn't somebody say, look, it's Ruth, I mean, you are with your husband wrongs you. Shouldn't your husband or shouldn't you prove that you are right?
No.
If you don't prove that you are right, how does he recognize his fault? I think that's the problem.
Who am I proving it to? Because when I speak to my husband, we are one. Me personally, my husband and I, we are one in every way, shape, or form. And so I cannot go to him and want to be right. I mentioned that already. In my head, I'm 90% right. But I cannot use that when I go to the person to say, because I'm right, or let me prove it for what sake? Again, what is the intent? What is the goal here? Are we trying to be together, or are we trying to win a battle? And if you win, is it a win together, or is it a win where I feel good? If it's about you feeling good, then yeah, go and prove your point. But guess what won't happen? You can always be right and lose your marriage in the process, and lose your relationship in the process. And this is not just for marriage, like even in relationships with your siblings, with your parents, with other people. If you focus on being right, you're going to lose important people in your life.
Ruth Yeboah, we have Lillian back on the line. Hello, Lillian. I'm fine. Let me make sure that Ruth can hear you. Can Ruth hear you? Yes. Do you,
No.
What's your question? Ruth doesn't hear you. I don't know why. We had tested all of these things and things worked just right. Let me confirm again. Ruth, do you hear Lillian? Yes, say something.
No, I hear her through your earpiece, but I don't hear her the way you want me to hear her.
Okay. Well, you can hear her clearly. Okay, ask the question and I'm going to relay the question to her.
That's fine.
Yes, go ahead. Hello, Lillian. Yes, we're listening to you, please.
Is I am right, and I am always right. Just like she said it, between you even and your siblings and as a couple, there has to be, the focus has to be taken away from your position and move towards the position of compromise.
Now, Lillian, you have been in marriage for 30 years. I am sure that there are times Professor Wop has driven you really crazy. You like asking, what brought me into this relationship? How do you handle those things?
No, not what brought me, but when I'm about to kill him. But just like I'm saying, I learned very earlier on that the whole idea is a compromise and not to focus on being right all the time. And granted, that your opinion definitely matters, and there's also the point of respect. So you have to respect your partner. And it all boils down to that respect. There's mutual respect. He respects me as a person, and I respect him as a person first, before I bring in the idea of this is my spouse. And then when I bring on that idea of also, when I bring on that, it's an added layer that allows me to be able to say, okay, this is my spouse and I have to give him that respect. And then when it moves further of him being even the father of my children, then that's another added layer onto what makes it possible for me to forge towards that compromise. Because I cannot, because once I put myself in that position of this is somebody's father, regardless, it becomes a completely different issue.
You talk about two things, respect and compromise. Lillian, you think people don't know this? What makes it difficult for people to just compromise? I mean, to come to a compromise?
Because they focus more on that wanting to be right. Their focus is more on I am right. And once you keep that focus, once that is your main focus, you will lose it all the time.
Let me ask you one question before you go, Lillian, about respect. I mean, nobody gets married to disrespect the spouse, at least not the time people are popping champagne and confetti falling and the band playing and everything, everybody in black suit or beautifully dressed. What makes people just turn to just hate, be resentful of each other? I mean, I met a couple, and I was, after listening to the communication, I was wondering what put them together in the first place as a couple.
Right.
I was wondering, I mean, they were behaving like cat and mouse, Lillian. They were behaving like two lawyers in a courtroom, one a prosecutor and one a defense lawyer. How does it get to this point?
But the thing is, it's because, and like I said, there's not just one magic bullet. And the truth of the matter is they don't arrive at that position overnight. No. There's been build up. There is a build up. Things happen, you overlook it. You say, okay, oh well, it will change. So there's that build up. Somebody doesn't just get up and become that monster in a day. There's a build up. And something also which I always say is initially, if the couple, they are sincere with each other, there has to be a self-introspection. Because if you sit down and look at it from the beginning, there were some aspects of that person that was right there in the very beginning. But because of our individual selfish attitudes, we tend to minimize those things which later on come to bite us. You have to, nobody comes with 100%, that is for sure. But my rule is always, there has to be 80% of that which I am looking for, then we can work towards that 20%, which is not there. But if in the beginning of it, there is just 20% and you're trying to work towards 80%, to work for the rest of that 80%, it is an arduous task. I don't care how you put it.
Lillian, I have two quick questions for you before you go. You once were a young woman at a Lady of Lourdes College in Bamenda, Cameroon. You grew up to be an adult, got married, have children, and you've enjoyed your marriage for 30 years. How do you get to the point, from point A to point Z? Point A being when you were a student, there's no school for marriage, there's nowhere you go learn this thing in the classroom. How do you get from that point to where you are now, thinking the way you are? I'm going to ask that same question to Ruth.
I can say this personally for myself, that I must have been an old soul, because those who really know me, who think they knew me, could never give me a chance, this kind of chance that, I would last in matrimony for 30 years. No, because they saw that outward me, but inside of me, I had made 2 commitments to myself, which I was going to keep. And don't even ask me how it happened. Must have been the Holy Spirit. First of all, I told myself that if I am not married by the age of 25, I was going to become a career woman, period. I mean, this is as young as I was in Lourdes. I had no idea what career I was going to go through. I had no idea who the husband was going to be. I only knew that in my head, marriage was something that I liked. And that I told myself by the age of 25, if I'm not married, I will just become a career woman. That was something I told myself privately. Now, how did I work towards that? By the time that I got to the age of 22 and was going to 23, this is a secret that I am letting the whole world know. By the time I was getting to 23 and 22 and 23, remember I was a television star, whatever they might call it. I had secretly told myself, anyone who comes to me, if we're not going to end up in marriage, and then it's a forgotten case right there, because it will be a non-starter.
Lillian, the last question I have for you this evening on the show today, you are a very educated woman, your husband too, very educated. How have you managed it or navigated the territory that this doesn't come in between you in resolving conflicts? The reason I ask you this question, I know a couple who kept saying his wife used to be very, very, very good listener. And then when she got into a master's PhD, she became something else. How have you managed it, Lillian, to be able to navigate this delicate territory of listening to understand and not have the education come in between this important thing called coexistence, compromise? How do you do it?
My number one thing which I have to advise younger people or people who are aspiring to get into marriage, one of my goals was actually to support my husband to become the best that he can be. Because I knew, when I married him, I knew that he was extremely academically astute. And I knew that stopping at the first degree was not what he could be. That was not all he could be. And then even as far as he went after he got his PhD, I knew that there was still more in him to give. Still some more in him to give. So I cannot put my own selfish reasons to block him. What I need to do is just to be his supporter, to support him. And I'm his biggest cheerleader. He knows that. And I really want to do that. I'm his biggest cheerleader.
Bless your heart.
That's how my southerners will say, bless your heart.
Lillian, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Is there the last word you want to say before I continue this discussion with Mrs. Ruth Yeboah?
Yes, just a little bit of advice to my sisters who are out there who are probably saying, oh, that's just because, your husband is a good person. No, you have to, as a woman or as a partner, you have to make that commitment, that individual commitment for yourself, for your own integrity and for your own self. I'm not doing what I'm doing because of my husband. I'm doing it in spite of him, because of my personal integrity. It might be selfish, yes, but I am devoted to making him to become the best that he can be for me and for the rest of his surrounding and for his person. So I want to be his biggest cheerleader. I am his biggest cheerleader so he can achieve his highest potential.
That is Lillian Nkuna, now Mrs. Lillian Fomunum. Thank you, Lillian.
You're welcome, Lady Vine.
Wow, that's loaded. Now, Ruth, tell me a little bit. What did you gather from what Lillian said, which you think has been the source of so many headaches and heartaches between the couples you meet?
I think once again, to Miss Lillian's point, respect is important, right? And I love what she said about making sure that you do what you do in spite. So she's not, taking action and doing what she does in her marriage because of her husband, but in spite of him. And I think that's such a profound statement, because we tend to behave according to what people do. If somebody's nice to you, you're nice to them. Somebody gives you a gift, you give them a gift. So our relationships have become transactional, where you do me, I do you, but that's really not.
I like that. You see why I always insisted you come back on this show. People love to listen to you.
Thank you. So, it doesn't have to be that way, because there are times where you are 0% and your spouse, it comes in 100%. So the concept of relationship is 50-50. If you stay on 50-50, my dear, your gas will run dry. Before you know it, you'll be stuck on the road. You ain't gonna make it. All right. You have to go from the standpoint that I do what I do in spite of my spouse, because they have their own agency. You said I do. What does I do mean? And that's one of the things I do when you come to coaching, is that I teach you and I take you back to when you said I do. Why did you say I do? It's important to know why you said I do. And now you're here. And like you said, now you're cats and dogs. Could you really be cat and dog when you said I do to this person? Why did you say? I want to understand. So understanding the root of the conflict will help you resolve the conflict. Let me explain that a tad bit.
We'd like to hear that.
Yeah. So the root is, anytime there's a problem, all right, there is always a source of conflict, always a source of conflict. And then you got to think about, okay, how am I going to resolve that problem? But one of the biggest source of conflict is that people don't even know how to express themselves. You don't even know how you're feeling. Maybe you will come off upset. You're yelling at your children. You're throwing things in the house, and you're just speaking under your breath and making cheeky comments or whatever they call it. You know, you're making snide comments, and it seems like you're angry, but really, maybe what it is that you're actually frustrated. And frustration can present as anger, just like when you're hungry. You can become angry just like that when you're hungry. But somebody might think, oh, she's so angry. No, she's not angry. She's hungry. Okay. So the key is finding out how do I feel about this? Why did I get upset about this? If my spouse said, hey, did you take out the trash? Why is that even making me mad? What's the big deal? Did you take it out? And if you feel like they should know already, don't say nothing. But if you say something and it becomes a problem, then you are triggering the person. So you need to identify, what are the triggers? What is this person's triggers? Once you identify the trigger, it's easier to resolve conflict. Listen, conflict is inevitable, but no one is to say every day should be World War III in your house. No one is to say that every single week you have to fight about something. Why? I want to understand why. So I take you through the process. What is the source? There's something somebody did to you. You're resenting. You didn't say it. So now you're upset over, oh, look at the food. This food, I don't like the way the food. Okay, but are you mad at the food? Or are you mad that last night you were up by yourself taking care of the baby? Are you mad at the food? Or are you mad that you need help? The baby is crying. You're cooking in the kitchen. You're doing this. And your spouse is on the phone chit-chatting in Africa or in London in somewhere. Is that what you're mad about? Or are you just mad about the food really? So sometimes we project the anger or we project the pain when really that's not what it is.
Oh my goodness, Ruth. You know what? Somebody's texting me, Divine. I've invited. Here's what actually the text says. Divine, you have invited so many guests to Chat Night Africa talking on marital issues. This is number one.
Oh.
They want to know how they can contact you. We're continuing. This is not stopping here, but at this point, this viewer wants to know how Ruth Yeboah can be contacted. Can you please give this information? Let these viewers leave me in peace.
Okay. So if you search Coach Yeboah on Facebook, Coach Yeboah, Yeboah, you can inbox there, or I'll give you the intake number. You know, this is the number I use for any questions, any coaching like intake questions. All right. So that's 914-265-4050.
Or you can contact Divine, and I can tell you.
Or you can contact Divine.
All right.
But Divine, let me add this to the contact. Okay.
Yes.
The book that I wrote, okay, and I mentioned in the book because all of these things I'm saying is part of my book. I've written this in the book easily, and it's on Amazon. You can easily see it. The step-by-step is there, or you can work with me one-on-one.
Some people can't simply get over conflicts because of some past experiences. Let me give you some clear examples, or a clear example. Take a woman who dated a man who was very exploitative, who only wanted the man, or who only wanted her to spend her money. You're dating some gentleman who only wants you to spend your money. Now, the relationship falls apart, and it can be the other way around. And then you meet another person who is doing his best, and you keep thinking that this could be another vulture coming. So how do people get past trauma?
Trauma is, it's so intense. Okay. There's so many levels of trauma. And the key is knowing that a lot of the decisions that we make in this life, right, truly depend on the value we place on the events of our past. So a lot of the decisions that you're making today are contingent upon what happened to you, what happened before. So let me give a quick example. Whether this is conscious or unconsciously, the trauma of your past impacts you. If there's a woman, for example, who was cheated on, right? Maybe she was married, things kept happening, there was problems, and infidelity is such a big issue. So one of your questions you asked was, what are the issues to conflict? Infidelity is such a huge problem and creates so much resentment. But people don't seem to always talk about that. They just kind of put it, it's the pink elephant in the room. It could be that all the conflict that's happening is because of that infidelity. All right. It's so huge. So that woman who went through that, now she's in a new relationship, or that man, right, now is in a new relationship. Now this person has trust issues. The person does not trust that their spouse can be truthful, because automatically they're still living in the trauma of their past. And in the past, they were cheated on. In the past, they were abused. In the past. And so everything that happened, they're bringing in the new relationship. This new person is here. They haven't done anything. But now we're blaming that person that's in our life today for what somebody else did. So the key is to recognize, why am I not trusting this person? Why am I having a difficult time investing my energy in this marriage, in this relationship, when this person has never done anything to me? So we must heal from the pain of our past so that people in our lives don't pay for it. They don't suffer the consequences. So it's clear that you need to identify and discover how your current life is being affected by the trauma of your past. That's what needs to happen.
I have a text here, and a gentleman is asking, this time it's from a man. I don't know, some people don't want to call. They're sending me a text. I promise to keep them anonymous, and I can understand these are sensitive issues sometimes. He says his wife behaves as though she has a basement full with or filled with past issues. Each time they want to resolve an issue, she goes into those files. You did this 6 months ago. You did this. You did this. You did this. And he says he constantly reminds his wife, but that's not what they're talking at that time. Is this usually a problem in conflict resolution or conflict management, Ruth?
Divine, let me be very clear. There is no room for change for those who don't forgive. There is no room. And this is a very bold statement, but I'm going to stand by it. There is no room for change. If you keep bringing up the past, you cannot move forward. Why? Because the only thing you have control over is your future, your present even. So you can be in the moment. What is going on right now? A lot of people like to address all the problems together. It's not going to resolve. You need to learn to address problems individually, okay? This happened, let's talk about this. That happens, let's talk about that. Don't bring, oh, the last time, and then last year, and then your mother-in-law, and then your this, and then, I mean, you're going to lose the person, because when an issue happens, you have people that are avoiders. Avoiders are like, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to be bothered. And then you have attackers, people who attack. You know, you did this and you blah, 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 and they call you names and they attack you. Okay, the character assassination. And then there are those that are people pleasers. People pleasers, listen, it's such a deadly place to be in, because you have to be delivered. I have been there in terms of wanting to please this person and that person, but this is where you have to release yourself and say, I no longer want this. This is not going to help me. So you get into the mode of, okay, now what do I need to do for this? What do I need to do for this? So the reason there's a basement full of agenda, okay, basement full of files, is because this person isn't trying to get to a common goal. There's no common ground. They're trying to be right. They're trying to prove a point. But to what end? What is the ultimate goal? So any problem that happens in your marriage, ask yourself, what is the point of this? Is this going to bring us together? Or is this going to create a divided and tensious home? And if that's the case and you want tension, please, by all means, bring evidence. This is the courtroom, eh? So you want to be right. So because this is a courtroom, in order for you as the lawyer to prove your case, you need evidence beyond reasonable doubt. And so for you to show that I was right, you go into the files, you collect it, and you release it one by one, so that nobody would doubt what you are saying. Look, I have pictures. Look, I have text messages. Look, I have this. You have your evidence. That's okay. But what is the evidence going to do in the long run? Is it going to help resolve? Or is it going to divide the team once again? So, Divine, I don't know if that answers your question.
It did, and did so squarely. Here is another text. Ruth Yeboah, you are an exceedingly brilliant woman. Somebody wants to know how you learn all of this.
Who was this? Thank you, first of all. I don't know who this was, but thank you.
Yeah, the people who are texting say that I keep them anonymous. They want to know, how do you learn all this, Ruth? I mean, how did you come about getting all this information? And listen, don't these things work only when you have a reasonable partner? Maybe it works for you because you have a reasonable husband. Can it work in a situation where somebody just chooses to be obnoxious, Ruth?
Okay. All right. You said two things. I'm going to address both.
Okay.
Thank you, first of all, again. All right. And I have to say, it's very common. I hear this a lot. People tell me this all the time. You don't have marital problems. You don't have any real issues. Oh, you don't struggle with money. People, it's so easy, right? To look and say, oh, you probably have a great husband, but let me just say he is great. Okay. I can't even lie about that. He's wonderful, but it doesn't mean that there aren't issues to be resolved. At a very tender age, I remember even when I was 14, 15, I was given marital advice at that age. I've been passionate about marriage and couples and relationship since I was a tender age. So how do I know this? I just knew that I just, when you have a calling, there's a pull for your calling. So many things happen around you and they point to your calling. So I was fortunate. I was one of those that was fortunate to know this is my calling. And naturally, I was drawn into psychology. So I majored in psychology. And then, I got into the social work field. And, I'm a jack of all trades. I've done so many different things in my life. But I must say that I'm a woman who's always learning. Always learning. Right now, I'm learning so many different things. And they don't have to do with social work. They don't have to do with, it's just you have to want to learn.
And so the next question being, don't these things work because you happen to be blessed with a husband who listens, who wants to work with you? If you had the misfortune of having the opposite, do you think all this would work?
Well, okay. What I want to say, I'm going to reserve what I was going to say. Okay. But let me just be blunt. Okay. When when you choose someone you're going to marry, okay, it's a choice. This is why we don't get to choose our families. We are born to mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers. We don't get to choose them. You have the opportunity, you have your agency to choose somebody to marry. It's a choice. So it's your prerogative to do the work and choose somebody that is going to at least be some kind of understanding, right? So if you miss the mark, let me say this, if you miss the mark and you say, well, this person just doesn't understand anything, there's work to be done together. There comes to a point when you and the person cannot resolve the issue, all right? And as I said, on my personal life, it's easy to look and say, oh, you don't have a problem. Oh, but we had to do work because marriage is work. We don't postpone and say, okay, we're not talking. We're going to wait 3 days or 1 week and then talk about, no. You know what can happen in that 1 week? Do you know what can happen in that 3 days? There is no such thing. I have plenty of room in my house. But if I'm busy, if we're fighting or we're arguing, it's not allowed. We don't leave the bed and say, oh, I'm going to the other room. So again, I want to encourage people to do what they don't feel like doing. That is what saying I do means. And again, I'm going to keep pushing this. In my coaching, I take you through the process and see, did you miss the ball? Where are you? Are you even together in this? And if we're working together, we can't keep fighting.
Ruth Yeboah.
Hi.
Ruth, you say you keep learning. That's how you keep growing.
Yeah.
That leads me to this question. Do you think that some people are not growing or improving upon their performances because they have refused to learn?
Of course.
Because the
Absolutely.
tendency is for some people to say, no, Divine, this thing you are saying is irrelevant. I know this.
Absolutely.
How come you know all this and you still think you should be learning more? Why?
Because when you think you've arrived, you have a problem. Nobody is ever at the point where when you stop learning, you stop growing, period. And when you stop wanting to get more, I'll give you a quick example. If you become a Christian, right? As a Christian, your first month, your first 1 year, you're just like, oh gosh, you're just like so hot, yeah? And then you're a Christian for 30 years. Then you become blah. You're just like, what is this? You just same old thing every day. It becomes boring. Oh, repeat. You've heard all the scriptures in the Bible. They do nothing for you. In fact, you've become immune. You become immune to the scriptures. But the scripture has to be new and relevant every single day if you're learning it every day. So I use that example to make clear sense of what happens in a marriage. You're already in the marriage. You feel like I don't need to strive anymore. It's not just marriage. You have to endeavor to do more, endeavor to improve, because nobody has ever arrived. I will be learning until my very last day.
Here's what my bishop, Dr. Darlingston Johnson, once said. If you do not allow your past to die, your past will not allow your future to live. Let me repeat that. If you do not allow your past to die, your past will not allow your future to live. I'd like you to comment on that.
That's true. I mean, exactly what he said, You have to get rid of your past. You can't control your past. You can't change your past. So many of us have been hurt. Again, you can look at me and say, this person, I'm so positive all the time. There's no problem. Listen, people have betrayed me beyond my thinking. I can't even imagine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. I can't undo it. It happened. What are the lessons? And move forward. Take the lessons, take what is left and move forward and see what you can do, because you have so much control. In fact, if you chose today to do your marriage differently, it will be different for you the next 1 month. If you chose today, because you know what? My focus changed to me. It changed to me in my marriage. The minute my focus changed to me, everything began to change. It wasn't about me. It wasn't my job to change another person. I knew what I was getting myself into. I hope you knew what you were getting yourself into, right? But if you didn't know and something happened and got shocked, then do something different. Present yourself as an asset. Present yourself in a way that you're adding value to the marriage. People get into relationships and stop growing. So when you grow and you outdo your partner, there's going to be conflict because you grew. So to give a basic example is maybe when you both started, you haven't gone to school, you haven't done anything, but now you finish high school. Then you say, okay, I'm going to college. I went to college. Oh, then you said, okay, maybe I want to do some trade. You did trade school. And then you said, oh, so you're growing, you're getting there, whether financially, emotionally, and everything. And your partner is like this, same old thing from high school. Guess what? There's going to be conflict because you're butting heads. You're not on the same wavelength.
I got a question here from somebody who just sent it in, or a statement. He said the moment his wife became or read up to a certain level, conflicts just started showing up from nowhere. They just multitudes and multitudes of conflicts. How do you see things like that often in your practice? That somebody becomes something that he or she wasn't before, and then all of a sudden problems start. Is it the problem of superiority or inferiority complex?
No,
Madam?
it's not.
What is it?
Listen, it's not. What happens is there are traits that are within people. Sometimes we overlook those traits. And sometimes we don't see those traits. So an example is you have a poor man who is not flexing and you don't see the pride because he doesn't have anything to flex. Okay? When the person gets money, then you say, oh, hey, this man, he has so much money and he is so prideful. No, he was prideful as a poor man. But what happened is he didn't have anything to flex. So there's some traits that are already inside of us. So when you hear, oh, pull him down, PhD, this woman now she has her master's and she has, listen, I have all of that. It means nothing. Because when it's all said and done, the prerequisite to marriage is not education. It's not. So it doesn't matter what you get or how you get or whatever you have or money. It doesn't matter. The prerequisite to marriage is making sure that you both are in agreement and you're working together. Whether there's money, there's no money, somebody has a PhD, somebody has a no degree, it doesn't matter. So if the person seems like, oh, now they think it's because it was already there. You overlooked it.
You know what I give you after making that statement, Ruth?
Okay.
I got something for you. Wait, listen.
Tell me.
Well, I think it didn't come through, but we'll arrange that. We will arrange that.
Okay.
Ruth, the saying goes that misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when people get frustrated in their relationships, they go to meet third parties. It could be at work. It could be family members. Do you recommend that when people have issues in their relationships, they should talk to a third party? Now, I'm not talking about third party like you, a counselor, but just a friend at work or some other person.
Okay. I'm going to carefully answer this question. Okay. So should third parties be allowed in marital conflict or any conflict?
Absolutely. That's it.
Okay. So mediation is a whole field that you can major in college because third party is necessary to resolve conflict.
How do you know you're going to meet somebody who is putting gasoline on the fire?
You said what?
How do you know you're not meeting or you're not talking to somebody who is going to be?
So I'm explaining to come. So mediation is a key. It's important to have third party involved because what happens is a third party comes in with a third eye. The third party comes in with neutrality and the third party comes in with impartiality. So perhaps if you're talking to your friend, first of all, you got to leave your marriage out of the ears of your friends. You just got to. So you need the wisdom to be able to speak to the right people when you are frustrated. Many people, and I say this often, Many people have spoken to the wrong people out of frustration. You have allowed the wrong people access to your life because you were frustrated. It's important to build relationships, lasting relationships, for mentorship, for coaching, for help. You need somebody you can trust in this game called marriage. You can't do it alone. Let me put it out there. You cannot do it alone. But involving a friend, especially when you are a male and a female, do not involve people that are opposite sex. The number one mistake you can do for your marriage is to involve individuals that are of the opposite sex. First of all, friends is a question mark. Then you add maybe an ex-girlfriend. Let me go tell my ex-girlfriend what my current wife is doing. You just paved the way for that person to enter. Okay? There are women and there are men who have their moral compass isn't clear. So when you go to a person like that, a co-worker at work who wants to flirt with you, a co-worker at work who maybe likes you low-key, okay? And a lot of men can pick this up, but women, we're very good. We have that kind of intuition where, you can tell, you think a man likes you and you want to. So when the man comes to you and says, oh, do you know what my wife is doing? Automatically, you gave them room. So to answer your question, significant third parties who have the right to speak into your life, not an ex-girlfriend, not an ex-boyfriend, not a friend that may not even have your best interest at heart. Okay, so you need somebody to come in, and sometimes the best person to come in is a counselor. It's a coach. It's a party who has no connection to the individuals. It's important. The natural thing to do is to go to family, but the family piece can get really dicey. So you have to really assess and really search out a neutral, completely neutral person to intervene.
Why shouldn't you go meet your mom if your husband just got on your nerves and continues to get on your nerves? Why shouldn't you go talk to your mom?
Because if my husband ends money to my mom all the time and my mom loves him more than I love him, okay, then what happens? My mom will say, go back. You have to go back because, so what? He hit you a little, so what? Just stay. That's how marriage is now. Oh, so what if he took this? That's how it is. And maybe this is mommy's belly. Now you're about to say, oh, I can't take this. Then you have to stay. So that's why.
How do you know when a third party is giving you the wrong advice?
You have to know the people in your circle. Who's in your circle? Is this friend have my best interest at heart? A lot of people like us Africans.
How do you define that?
Us Africans, okay, we love to show. We like people. We like this big things. You think you have 300 people at your wedding, all of them love you? Why do you think 300 people love you? That's a lie from the pits of hell. Okay, it's not the case. So that's how you begin to build your circle. I'm getting married. I need people who care, who love, who have shown me that they have my best interest at heart. And you know that by what have they done for you? Have they betrayed you? Have they talked about you? Have they given you advice that didn't work? Okay, so that's how you pick the people in your circle.
Ruth, why do you think that you're a very good friend? If you had a problem with your husband, why do you think that your very good friend would come telling you what you don't want to hear?
Well, what do you mean what you don't want to hear?
Telling you the things you want to hear.
Oh, okay. Well, she's my friend, right? So she can tell me anything. And a lot of our friends.
Problem. How do you know? How can you gauge the sincerity of somebody when they come to tell you what you want to hear?
People give you what they know. They give you what their capacity provides them. And they sometimes people are not, it's not that they have evil intent, it's that they're giving you what they know. And so if you put your decision making in the hands of somebody who is just trying to help but doesn't know how and says, oh, if it's me, I will leave.
So
If it's
that
me, I'll
man,
leave. You too.
don't take that nonsense from that man.
No, me. Oh, I will never do that. Me, I'll be gone before you know. No, my dear, you don't get to speak in my marriage. And this is why a lot of people say, oh, you don't have issues. Because the problem is between me and my husband. I don't know what my friend can help with. I'm not sure. What can you do for me?
They're going to tell you to not take that nonsense.
Yeah, because it's also possible my friend is jealous. So why am I going to take somebody who, there's a lot of frenemies, okay? Now that's another topic, but there's a lot of frenemies. There are a lot of friends who look at you, they're not happy with your marriage. They're not happy with who you are. They're just not happy. So when you give them the way, you pave a way. If you give room in your marriage, people can destroy it. You need the right people to speak into your marriage.
Ruth Yeboah, we could be here till tomorrow morning, but I know you are a mother, you are a wife. Yes. What would be your last word tonight, given all the things we have talked about in the challenges people have in resolving conflict in their love relationships?
Whew, I'm breathing because you have to go back to the basics. Why did I marry this person? It's so important. I can't stress that enough. Go back to the common ground. What did I like about this person? I fell in love with them for a reason. Stop complaining. Stop focusing on the things that seem to be just, it's okay. Give your partner, today I'm challenging you, give your partner a new slate, a clean slate. Act like your partner was just born today. How would you treat your partner if you just met him today? And start there. Some people are so far apart that you don't know how to mend. Get help. Get help. Don't be ashamed. Get help. It doesn't even have to be me. It could be anybody else. But make sure you do the work, because marriage requires work. Marriage requires sacrifice. Marriage can be so painful. Marriage can be such a great source of stress, and you just can't function if marriage is not going well. Give yourself that chance to start over. Let go of the past. Forgive, and do forget. Don't say it's hard to forget. Forget it. It's okay. So what I'm asking you to do is to change your thinking, change your mind. You got to clean out the garbage, clean out the trash. When you start to think about people, oh, I know she's going to say this. When I say this, she's going, hey, when I get home, I'm going to tell him. Remove all of those self-negative thoughts that hinder and prevent you from communicating appropriately. Begin to be positive. Get help. Get on YouTube. Reach out to somebody. Attend marriage seminars. Listen, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to offer a hot seat coaching. Hot seat coaching is you come and stay with me, like in coaching virtually, and then you ask me any questions about something. Because one of the biggest things people struggle with is making a decision. Let me give you the strategies. Let me add some things to you. Read my book. Do what you need to do. Get in contact with me or others. Like I said, it doesn't have to be me, but you have access to me now. And then in hot seat coaching, you get a quick advice, quick things, quick strategies you can use to begin to mend your relationships. I also understand there are relationships that cannot be mended. They cannot be mended. My job isn't to tell you this is a dead end. You're going to figure out if something is a dead end by the strategies and the teaching that I will do with you. Okay, so I'm hoping and praying that you're willing to change your perspective and give love a chance.
Now, you see why I ask you to come listen to this woman. She generates fireworks. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Ruth. You've simply lived up to the description I gave you online. The dynamite from Ghana. I appreciate you. We'll have so much work to do at Chat Night. I appreciate you. And lots of people from the comments, I'm seeing the text messages and so on. They truly, truly, truly appreciate you. God bless you. God bless your family. Extend my regards to your family, especially your very loving husband, understanding husband. That's
Yes,
key.
very.
Very important. I know that he's watching this broadcast.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
All right. Thank you, Divine, for inviting me. I really, really appreciate this to be able to teach others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. And that's how we kind of wrap up on this edition of Chat Night Africa. You see why it was very, very important for you to watch this broadcast. You see why Chat Night Africa is a place where you ought to be. I want to thank all the people who've been supporting Chat Night Africa. We continue to look for those topics which are relatable, that you easily relate with kitchen. I call them kitchen table issues. We soon, on this platform, we'll be talking about why women have so many complications during pregnancy. In other words, complications of pregnancy will be the next topic we handle when we come to Chat Night Africa. That's how we round up on the show. Thank you so much.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming. Coming to get down. I'm coming. I'm coming. Coming to dance. To dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna get down. We're gonna get down. We're gonna party. Party hardy. We're gonna boogie. Boogie woogie. And when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here, it's dynamite. I'm ready.